book of Revelation stands as one of the most chilling and mysterious texts in human history. It speaks of the four horsemen, pestilence, war, famine, and death, sweeping across the earth, leaving chaos in their wake. Then comes the Antichrist, a deceiver who rises to power, promising salvation while leading humanity to ruin. This prophecy has fascinated scholars for centuries, with many believing it mirrors real-world events. Could it be that we are witnessing the early signs of this apocalyptic vision unfolding today? The Apocalypse Prophecies. How ancient texts. Foretold the end of civilization seems to whisper through time, warning us of an impending fate. The Mayan calendar, once dismissed after 2012, might not have been wrong, just misunderstood. Many feared that December 21st, 2012 would mark the end of the world, but what if it was actually the beginning of a slow decline? The Mayans, master astronomers, mapped cosmic cycles with precision. Their calendar suggests that humanity enters phases of great turmoil before renewal. Could the crises we face today, climate disasters, wars, economic collapses, be the true meaning of their warning? The Apocalypse Prophecies. How ancient texts. Foretold the end of civilization may not have been a countdown to a single event, but a roadmap to a civilization teetering on the edge. Hindu mythology describes a recurring cycle of creation and destruction, with each era declining into greater corruption before a savior emerges. The current age, known as Kali Yuga, is marked by greed, violence, and moral decay, an eerily accurate description of today's world. The final avatar, Kalki, is said to arrive riding a white horse, wielding a blazing sword to cleanse the earth. But could this prophecy be symbolic rather than literal? Could Kalki represent a radical shift in human consciousness, rather than a warrior descending from the heavens? The Apocalypse Prophecies. How ancient texts. Foretold the end of civilization might be less about doom and more about a final test for humanity. Ancient prophecies often depict a final battle between good and evil, an ultimate confrontation that determines the fate of the world. The book of Revelation calls it Armageddon, while other traditions describe cosmic wars between divine beings and dark forces. But what if these stories aren't just about gods and demons? What if they represent the constant struggle between truth and deception, knowledge and ignorance? Some believe that the modern world is engaged in this very battle: manipulation, propaganda, and hidden agendas shaping the course of history. The Apocalypse Prophecies. How ancient texts foretold. The end of civilization suggests that the final war may not be fought with weapons, but with ideas. It's no coincidence that these prophecies come from civilizations that existed centuries apart, with no apparent connection. The patterns repeat, as if humanity is doomed to cycle through the same warnings, ignoring them until it's too late. The collapse of the Roman Empire, the fall of great dynasties, and the extinction of once thriving civilizations all followed eerily similar trajectories. Excess, corruption, internal decay. Are we following the same script today? The Apocalypse Prophecies. How ancient texts. Foretold the end of civilization might be less about mystical predictions and more about recognizing the warning signs staring us in the face. Yet, for every prophecy of destruction, there's also a hint of hope. Revelation speaks of a new heaven and a new earth. The Mayans hinted at rebirth, and Hinduism teaches that after the darkness, light emerges once more. The question is, do we have to endure total collapse before change comes, or can we alter course? Are these prophecies fixed destinies, or are they warnings designed to wake us up before it's too late? As we move deeper into this discussion, let's explore the disasters these texts predicted and how they mirror the world we see today. Cataclysms. Foretold by the ancients. The Hopi, one of the oldest indigenous tribes of North America, have long spoken of a coming purification, a time when the earth will cleanse itself through fire. Their prophecies warn of strange signs in the sky, great floods, and a world consumed by chaos before a new beginning emerges. Many believe that recent wildfires, record-breaking heat waves, and increasing volcanic activity eerily align with these warnings. Could it be that we are already witnessing the beginning of this purification? The Apocalypse Prophecies. How ancient texts. Foretold the end of civilization seem to whisper their warnings through nature itself, as if the earth is crying out for balance. Few figures in history have captivated doomsday theorists quite like Nostradamus. This 16th century French seer left behind cryptic quatrains predicting wars, plagues, and disasters that many claim have come true. From the rise of Hitler to 9/11, Nostradamus' eerie accuracy keeps scholars on edge. Some believe his verses foretell a great war, one that could reshape the world forever. In an age where global tensions are escalating, could his dark visions be unfolding before our very eyes? The Apocalypse Prophecies. How ancient texts foretold the end of civilization seem to echo across time, warning us of a fate we may not be able to escape. Ancient Egypt, the cradle of civilization, also left behind chilling warnings. Their concept of Ma'at, the balance of the universe, was not just a spiritual ideal, but a warning. When corruption outweighs justice, civilization crumbles. The final judgment in Egyptian mythology speaks of souls being weighed with the wicked cast into darkness. Could this be a metaphor for societies collapsing under their own greed and excess? The modern world seems to be teetering on the same edge, plagued by political unrest, economic instability, and environmental destruction. The Apocalypse Prophecies. How ancient texts foretold the end of civilization might be less about divine punishment and more about the inevitable consequences of human folly. The signs of an impending catastrophe aren't just written in ancient scrolls, they're happening now. Massive earthquakes, devastating hurricanes, and unexplainable climate shifts have become more frequent and intense. Scientists warn that the planet is changing in ways we don't fully understand, but ancient cultures already foresaw these cataclysms. Were they merely wise observers of nature, or did they possess knowledge far beyond what we assume? The Apocalypse Prophecies. How ancient texts foretold the end of civilization make one thing clear: humanity has been warned before, but history shows we rarely listen. If the ancients were correct, then the worst is yet to come. Some legends speak of a final deception, a time when the truth will be obscured and people will be led astray by false promises. Could we be living in that era now? With misinformation spreading faster than ever, manipulated narratives shaping reality, and artificial intelligence blurring the lines between truth and fiction, it feels as though humanity is being tested. The Apocalypse Prophecies. How ancient texts foretold the end of civilization suggest that the greatest danger might not be physical destruction, but the war for our minds. Yet every prophecy carries a duality: destruction and renewal, death and rebirth. Many of these texts don't just predict catastrophe, they offer glimpses of what might come after. Could it be that these disasters are necessary for a greater transformation? Are we merely repeating cycles of collapse and rebirth, or is there something different about our time? As we move forward, let's examine the modern signs that seem to align with these ancient warnings and ask, are we already living in the end times? Are we living in the end times? Throughout history, people have looked to the skies, the earth, and even their own dreams for signs of the end. But what if those signs are already here? The world today is experiencing an unprecedented convergence of disasters: mega earthquakes, wildfires, swallowing entire regions, record-breaking hurricanes, and plagues sweeping across continents. Many ancient texts warned that nature itself would rebel before the final days. The Apocalypse Prophecies. How ancient texts foretold the end of civilization may not just be relics of the past, they could be a blueprint for what's happening now. Are we ignoring warnings that were given thousands of years ago? Technology has always been a double-edged sword, capable of both progress and destruction. But did the ancients foresee a time when humanity would lose control over its own creations? Many prophecies describe a false god, or an entity that deceives the masses. Some scholars speculate that artificial intelligence and rapid technological advancements could be that very deception. AI can now create deepfake videos indistinguishable from reality, write stories, mimic voices, and even predict human behavior. Could the Apocalypse Prophecies, how ancient texts foretold the end of civilization, be pointing to a world where machines surpass their creators, reshaping society in ways we can't comprehend? The eerie parallels between biblical and Mayan prophecies with modern events are impossible to ignore. The Bible speaks of famines, pestilences, and wars and rumors of wars as precursors to the final days. The Mayans predicted a time of great upheaval and transformation. Look at the state of the world today. Economic collapse looming, global conflicts escalating, and new diseases emerging faster than we can contain them. Are we witnessing the script of ancient prophecies playing out before our eyes? The Apocalypse Prophecies. How ancient texts foretold the end of civilization might not be just predictions, they could be a warning that we're too late to change course. Political unrest is another recurring theme in end-time predictions. The Bible's book of Daniel speaks of a world divided, nations rising against each other, and alliances breaking apart. The Mayan and Hopi prophecies also describe a time of confusion, where people will be led by false leaders promising salvation but delivering destruction. Today, governments worldwide are more unstable than ever, and trust in leadership is at an all-time low. Conspiracies, corruption, and deception fill the headlines daily. The Apocalypse Prophecies. How ancient texts. We're told the end of civilization may be playing out in global politics, where the real battle isn't fought with weapons, but with information. Another disturbing sign is the growing sense of despair and division among people. Ancient texts often describe a world where humanity becomes so consumed by greed, materialism, and hatred that it implodes from within. Social media, though seemingly a tool for connection, has deepened divides, creating echo chambers that fuel anger and misinformation. Depression and anxiety rates are skyrocketing. People feel more disconnected than ever, and societies seem to be unraveling. Could it be that the Apocalypse Prophecies, how ancient texts, foretold the end of civilization, are warning us that the collapse begins from within long before the earth itself starts shaking? But here's the question. Are we truly at the point of no return, or is there still time? Some ancient texts hint that humanity has a choice, a final chance to steer away from catastrophe. If that's true, what is the key to avoiding the fate so many civilizations before us have faced? Is it unity, knowledge, or something more? As we dive into the next section, we'll explore whether the ancients left behind a way to escape this cycle of destruction, or if our destiny has already been sealed. The final warning. What happens next? If the ancients were right, then humanity is standing at a crossroads. Many ancient texts suggest that while destruction is inevitable for those who ignore the signs, there's always a path to salvation. The Hopi speak of a choice between two roads, one leading to chaos and suffering, the other to harmony and renewal. The Bible offers redemption for those who recognize the truth before it's too late. Even the Mayan prophecies hint at a shift in consciousness rather than just annihilation. But what does this mean for us today? Could the Apocalypse Prophecies, how ancient texts, we're told the end of civilization, contain a hidden message about how to avoid total collapse? One of the most controversial theories is the idea of a great reset. Some believe that civilization, like a computer, is periodically rebooted after reaching a breaking point. Whether through wars, plagues, or natural disasters, history has shown that great empires rise and fall in cycles. But what if this isn't just a pattern of human failure? What if it's by design? Could the collapse of civilization be something programmed into existence itself? The Apocalypse Prophecies, how ancient texts, foretold the end of civilization, suggest that humanity has been through this before, but the real question is, are we meant to break the cycle or repeat it endlessly? Ancient texts are filled with cryptic warnings, but could some of the most important prophecies still be hidden? Many believe that lost scriptures, secret archives, or even forbidden knowledge locked away in the Vatican or private institutions hold the answers. What if the final piece of the puzzle, the key to understanding our fate, was removed from history? The Dead Sea Scrolls, the missing books of the Bible, the suppressed teachings of ancient cultures, all hint at secrets that could change everything. The Apocalypse Prophecies, how ancient texts, foretold the end of civilization, may not be entirely revealed yet, but if such texts exist, who benefits from keeping them hidden? Another chilling possibility is that the final warning has already been given and we fail to recognize it. Many believe that signs like the pandemic, economic instability, and the rise of AI are not just random events, but markers on a timeline leading to an irreversible tipping point. If that's the case, then what comes next? Some say we're heading for a technological singularity where humanity loses control of its own creations. Others believe in an impending natural disaster that will reshape the planet. Either way, the Apocalypse Prophecies, how ancient texts foretold the end of civilization, suggest that the final event won't come without warning. But are we paying attention? But perhaps the most terrifying question is, what if there is no escape? What if these prophecies were never warnings, but rather records of a destiny already sealed? Some ancient traditions speak of time as cyclical, where no matter how much we try to change, the outcome is already written. The Hindu concept of yugas describes civilizations doomed to fall, only to rise again in another form. Even modern physics flirts with the idea of a predetermined universe. Could the Apocalypse Prophecies, how ancient texts, foretold the end of civilization, be less about preventing disaster and more about preparing for the inevitable? Yet, even in the darkest prophecies, there's always a glimmer of hope. Some texts imply that those who are aware, The ones who truly see beyond deception will have a chance to rebuild. Could it be that the real prophecy isn't about destruction, but about survival? If so, who will be the ones to carry humanity into a new age? As we reach the final chapter, one question remains: have we already crossed the point of no return, or is there still time to change our fate? Is the apocalypse already happening? Ancient civilizations, from the Mayans to the Egyptians, have been warning us for thousands of years. They spoke of a time when corruption, greed, and chaos would consume the world, a moment where humanity would either rise above its failures or be swallowed by them. Looking around, it's hard not to see the eerie accuracy of these predictions. Wars, plagues, environmental destruction, and the rise of artificial intelligence, are these just coincidences, or are we living in the apocalypse prophecies? How ancient texts foretold the end of civilization? Have we unknowingly stepped into the final chapter of history? But here's the question no one wants to ask. What if we've already passed the point of no return? What if we are no longer at a stage where we can prevent the collapse, but only prepare for what comes next? If the ancients were right, then civilization doesn't just end, it transforms. The real question is, into what? Are we heading toward a new era of enlightenment, or are we simply repeating the mistakes of those who came before us? If these ancient texts were meant to serve as warnings, why does humanity keep ignoring them? Is it arrogance, disbelief, or something more sinister? Maybe the real battle isn't just against external forces like war and disaster, but against something much deeper, our own unwillingness to change. Because if the apocalypse prophecies, how ancient texts foretold the end of civilization, have taught us anything, it's that societies don't collapse overnight. They decay from within, slowly, until the breaking point. But let's flip the script for a moment. If the ancients were trying to warn us, does that mean there's still hope? Many of these prophecies, even the darkest ones, hint at a rebirth after destruction. A reset, not just in technology or power structures, but in human consciousness itself. Maybe the real prophecy isn't about the end, it's about the choice we still have. The question is, will we take it? So what do you think? Are we witnessing the final days of civilization, or is there still a way out? Have these ancient texts been warning us all along? Or are they just myths that happen to align with history? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear what you believe. And if you want to keep exploring the hidden knowledge, the forbidden prophecies, and the secrets they don't want you to know, subscribe now and turn on notifications, because this is just the beginning, and you won't want to miss what's coming next.